May 18, 2026. Two courtrooms, two billionaires, two decisions that just shifted the entire landscape of power, money, and technology in America. And both happened before most people finished their morning coffee. Elon Musk just suffered one of the most humiliating legal defeats in Silicon Valley history. A jury of 9 ordinary Americans dismantled his $134 billion lawsuit against OpenAI and Sam Altman in under 2 hours. 90 minutes of deliberation to destroy years of legal warfare. At the exact same time, literally the same morning, the Trump administration announced a $1.776 billion fund built from your taxpayer dollars, created without a single congressional vote. No public debate, no judicial approval. Welcome to Verified Bulletin. Today we're giving you the full picture on both of these stories because they're bigger than they look individually. When you put them together, something remarkable emerges about who really holds power in America right now. Stay until the end, because the connection between these two stories is something almost nobody in media is talking about. Start with Oakland, California, federal courthouse. A 9-person jury, 6 women, 3 men, walked back into that courtroom after just 90 minutes of deliberation and delivered a unanimous verdict that sent shockwaves through Silicon Valley. Elon Musk's lawsuit against OpenAI, Sam Altman, Greg Brockman, and Microsoft? Gone. Every single claim. Thrown out. Not because the jury decided Musk was wrong about the facts, but because they ruled he waited too long to sue. Statute of limitations. That's what ended a case that could have reshaped the entire artificial intelligence industry. The jury found that Musk waited too long to bring his lawsuit against OpenAI CEO Sam Altman and others, throwing out the suit that claimed Altman had unlawfully enriched himself from the organization Musk and Altman co-founded. The verdict was unanimous. Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers confirmed she agreed with the jury. I think there's a substantial amount of evidence to support the jury's finding, which is why I was prepared to dismiss on the spot. 90 minutes. $134 billion. Gone. Now here's what makes this story genuinely fascinating, and why you need to understand the full history to grasp how staggering today's outcome really is. Musk didn't just stumble into this lawsuit, he helped build OpenAI from nothing. Musk donated $38 million to OpenAI early on the understanding it would develop AI for the benefit of humanity, not enrich any one person. He sat on the board, he believed in the mission, but then something cracked. After Musk failed to convince OpenAI to give him a controlling stake in a for-profit subsidiary, he began pushing for the possibility that the company would become a division of Tesla. Think about that. He wanted OpenAI merged into his car company. When that didn't happen, he left the board in 2018. Then in 2023, he launched xAI, his own competing AI lab. And then in 2024, he sued. OpenAI's legal team had a very clear argument from day one. We are here because Mr. Musk didn't get his way at OpenAI. He quit, saying they would fail for sure. But my clients had the nerve to go on and succeed without him. That line, delivered in opening statements, became the spine of OpenAI's entire defense. And the jury agreed. If you're finding this breakdown valuable, go ahead and subscribe to Verified Bulletin right now. Hit the notification bell. We cover stories at this depth every single time, and you don't want to miss what's coming as this AI war continues escalating. Now, what was actually at stake in that Oakland courtroom? Because $134 billion is a number most people can't even visualize. Musk's team wanted the court to force OpenAI and Microsoft to give up as much as $134 billion in ill-gotten gains, to remove Altman and OpenAI President Greg Brockman from leadership, and to unwind the company's 2025 restructuring that enabled the growth of its for-profit arm. Imagine that for a second. Musk wanted Sam Altman fired, wanted the entire structure of OpenAI dismantled, wanted Microsoft, one of the world's most powerful companies, to surrender over $100 billion. and a 9-person jury in Oakland killed every single one of those demands before lunchtime. OpenAI had raised $122 billion at a valuation of over $850 billion in late March. That valuation is now safe. Altman keeps his job, Brockman keeps his role, Microsoft walks away clean. OpenAI's attorney William Savitz said after the verdict, "The finding of the jury confirms that what this lawsuit was a hypocritical attempt to sabotage a competitor." Those words, hypocritical attempt to sabotage a competitor, are going to follow Musk for a long time. But wait, don't move yet, because there's a detail in this verdict that most reports are glossing over. The jury didn't rule that Musk was wrong. They didn't find that OpenAI kept its promises or acted in good faith. They ruled on timing. The statute of limitations was 3 years for the charitable trust claim, 2 years for unjust enrichment. The jury found that Musk was aware of the behavior discussed in the lawsuit as early as 2021. He filed in February 2024. That put him outside the window, which means the actual underlying question, did OpenAI betray its founding mission, was never fully answered by this jury. That open question matters, because OpenAI is still restructuring, still building toward what many expect will be one of the largest IPOs in tech history. And Musk? His lawyer said in court that the legal team was preserving Musk's right to appeal, but had not yet decided how to proceed. This isn't over, not even close. Drop a comment below. Do you think Musk was genuinely trying to protect OpenAI's nonprofit mission? Or was this always about crushing a competitor? Real question. We want your take. The verdict comes at a critical time for both tech magnates. Musk is expected to start meeting with investors ahead of an IPO for SpaceX, which was valued at $1.25 trillion after merging with xAI in February. SpaceX confidentially filed for an IPO in April and could make its prospectus public this week. Losing a high-profile trial days before your company's IPO prospectus drops? That is extraordinarily bad timing. SpaceX at $1.25 trillion, an IPO that investors worldwide are watching. And now a unanimous jury verdict branding his lawsuit as an attempt to sabotage a rival, sitting in every headline. How that affects investor sentiment over the coming days is something we will be tracking closely here on Verified Bulletin. Now pivot, because while that Oakland courtroom was delivering its verdict, something else was happening in Washington, D.C. that demands your attention equally. And when you understand both stories together, a pattern becomes visible that should genuinely concern anyone paying attention to how power operates in America right now. President Trump settled his $10 billion personal lawsuit against the IRS and the Treasury Department this morning. As part of the settlement agreement, the Attorney General is establishing a $1.776 billion Anti-Weaponization Fund to compensate those who allege they were wrongly targeted under the Biden administration. Trump, his sons, and the Trump Organization will receive a formal apology, but no payment under the settlement terms. The money comes from the Treasury Department's Judgment Fund, paid for by taxpayers to pay government settlements. Read that carefully. The President of the United States sued the agency he controls, settled with himself, and redirected $1.776 billion of pre-existing taxpayer money into a new fund run by 5 commissioners appointed by his own Attorney General, without Congress voting on a single dollar of it. 93 House Democrats filed an emergency brief Monday to criticize the settlement, calling it collusive litigation to force the American people to fund the president's political agenda. Representative Jamie Raskin said directly, "Only Congress has the power to appropriate money, and Congress never voted on creating this $1.7 billion political slush fund at the Department of Justice. Congress would never pass that." That phrase, political slush fund, came from both sides of the aisle, not just Democrats. Some Republicans are quietly raising the same constitutional alarm about who gets to decide how nearly $1.8 billion in taxpayer money flows and to whom. According to sources, the commission overseeing this fund would have total authority to hand out the money to anyone claiming to be a victim of government weaponization, potentially including the nearly 1,600 individuals charged in connection with the January 6th Capitol attack. The commission would be under no obligation to disclose its procedures or decision-making process for awarding more than $1 billion. No transparency, no oversight, no congressional vote. $1.776 billion. And now here is the angle that connects these two stories in a way nobody else is framing it. Think about what happened today from 30,000 feet. Elon Musk, the world's richest man, walked into a federal courtroom with a $134 billion claim, 3 weeks of testimony, and one of the most watched trials in tech history. And a jury of 9 regular Americans shut him down in 90 minutes flat. The system worked. Imperfectly, debatably, but it worked. A judge, a jury, a timeline, rules that apply to everyone regardless of net worth. Now look at the IRS settlement. A sitting president sued his own government, and the case was resolved through a deal that bypassed the judge who was actively questioning its constitutionality. In a footnote in Monday's filing, Trump's lawyers argued the motion to dismiss is self-executing and does not require a judge to sign off, effectively bypassing U.S. District Judge Kathleen Williams, who was assigned the case. The judge had ordered a hearing on whether the Constitution even allowed Trump to sue his own government. That hearing never happened. The case was gone before the judge could weigh in. 2 powerful men, 2 legal battles, 2 completely different relationships with the rules of the game. That's the story of May 18, 2026. And it's a story worth understanding deeply, not through a partisan lens, but through the lens of how power actually operates in institutions that hundreds of millions of people depend on. Zoom out one more time, because there is a third layer to today that adds genuine weight to everything we just covered. Moody's ratings last week cut the United States sovereign credit rating from AAA to AAA1, 1 notch below perfect, citing the increase over more than a decade in government debt and interest payment ratios to levels significantly higher than similarly rated nations. America is now rated below perfect by all 3 major global credit agencies for the first time in over a century. Moody's expects deficits to widen to nearly 9% of GDP by 2035 from 6.4% in 2024. U.S. debt will rise to 134% of GDP by 2035 from 98% in 2024. Interest payments will likely consume 30% of all federal revenue by 2035, up from about 18% in 2024. Nearly $1 in $3 the U.S. government collects, just paying interest on debt. Not roads, not hospitals, not defense, just interest. Against that backdrop, $1.776 billion redirected into a fund with no congressional oversight carries a very different weight. So step back and absorb what today actually delivered. Musk's attempt to tear down OpenAI, dead in 90 minutes. Altman's company, valued at $852 billion, moves forward untouched. Trump's administration created a $1 billion fund from taxpayer money without a single congressional vote. America's credit rating at its lowest point in modern history, and both Musk and Trump preparing for massive public market events. SpaceX's IPO prospectus expected any day, and Trump's political and financial maneuvers accelerating. Power is moving fast. Decisions that affect millions of people are being made in courtrooms, in settlement filings, in quiet DOJ announcements, and most people won't hear about any of it in the depth it deserves. That's exactly why Verified Bulletin exists. Subscribe right now if you're not already, and genuinely share this video with one person who deserves to understand what happened today. Because an informed audience is the most powerful force in a media landscape flooded with noise. Comment below with one word that describes how today's news makes you feel. Just one word. We'll read every single one. 2 courtrooms, Two billionaires, one day that just changed the game. We'll see you in the next breakdown.